Share with viewers real quick, when you say discovery, just for our viewers here on Friday morning at 7 a.m., just so they be familiar, when you say discovery, you mean?
When you have a dispute with your citizens or businesses or whoever, and you have to resort to bringing a lawsuit, the first thing that happens is you get served with a request to answer a lot of interrogatories. And after you get the answers to interrogatories, then they start serving you with notices to take depositions. And they take depositions of everybody involved in the litigation or that might know anything about the litigation, or expert witnesses. And these things are very, very costly. You can win the battle but lose the war. I mean, you can win the case, but your cost of handling that case or resolving that dispute can exceed the recovery that you might make. And we need to address that. Particularly for the average citizens, they just frankly can't afford to get involved in litigation. And big companies or wealthy people can literally go out and hire good lawyers and money whip you. I mean, just beat you down because of the expense involved in the litigation. And that's a serious concern that we need to address. The legislature needs to address it. The business community needs to address it. The judiciary, everybody needs to take a look at it. I think it can be managed by having some bright lines, that if your dispute involves a large sum of money or something that is really of major importance, then allow that kind of discovery to go on if it's necessary. But maybe if it's just a normal wreck case, let's say, or just a simple contract dispute that doesn't involve that much, maybe we ought to require something like sworn affidavits and enforce the perjury laws, you know, to cut down on this cost of litigation. When I was a lawyer, we didn't have all this discovery going on. You know when you have a lawsuit what it's all about. And the people defending it, they know what it's all about. They don't need to spend that amount of time and money doing all this unnecessary discovery in these low-profile, I guess you would call, disputes. They can be handled much more economically. And I'll be honest with you, the bar is partly to blame for it. You know, they are making a good living and they're charging by the hour or getting their cost built up in this thing. And all these things have got to be controlled.
Now, are you saying this, David, as a long time practicing attorney in the state, as former Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, or as wearing your ADR hat, your mediation and arbitration hat? Where is this coming from? Because you've probably seen it from all three perspectives. You're
absolutely right. I've seen it as a practicing lawyer. I've seen it from the way it was back in the late 50s when I started practicing law. And I've seen this thing grow and grow and grow, and it's just like a snowball. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's getting out of control. But I've seen it as a lawyer. I've seen it as a trial judge. I've seen it as an appellate judge, and I've seen it as in charge of the entire judicial system. It needs to be addressed. I would like an opportunity, frankly, to sit down with legislative leaders, bar leaders, business leaders, and try to help in this area, because it is a real problem now that is affecting society and the litigation that we have to deal with.
We've only got about 5 minutes, but a couple of things that you think, just off the top of your head, that would be the central focus of things that could be done. David, are there any, have you thought about any ways that could be, anything that could be done to help tackle that? I mean, is it, would alternative dispute resolution, some of those components, or?
And I started ADR. I started mediation, and it's mandatory now in many counties in our state, depending on the caseload in that county, because that is really right now the only relief in sight to get it out of the courtroom and stop this expense from going and going and going and going, and you know, it's just not the expense of discovery. To the taxpayer, it's the cost of the trial. Right. You think about paying all the jurors, paying the judges, paying all the court personnel. That's a costly process. Mm-hmm. So if you can eliminate that, it saves the taxpayers a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like mediation and arbitration. It's the more economical way to resolve these disputes. But there's still other things that can be done to cut down the cost of litigation, such as addressing this abuse of discovery.
Yes.
You know, judges can sanction lawyers for abusing the discovery process, but you get involved in litigation, judges are overwhelmed with motions and pleadings and things like that, you know.
Right.
And we've got to figure out a way to make it less costly for the average people to resolve their disputes. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot to be done in the judicial process itself. You know, as I mentioned earlier, when I was a circuit judge, we didn't have but 21 members of the entire judicial system. Now we've got several hundred.
Yes.
We've got 50 circuit judges, 46 families. We need to take a new look at the judicial circuits or districts. We need to cut down on the rotation of judges so young families won't, if the wife or the father who wants to be a judge can get at home at night and mm-hmm. not be over in Pickens County if you live down here in Horry County.
Right.
And that judge can manage the system. Case can be assigned to him just like in the federal system. Mm-hmm. He can keep that case until it's disposed of. It's a much more efficient way of running the judicial system. I couldn't do it when I was Chief Justice because I didn't have that many judges. But now we have such a large pool of judges, it can be done. It's just going to take a little time to sit down and work out the tactical part of it.
I mean, you're a pretty well-known and well-thought-of guy, David. Do you think you'll have a chance to bring these parties together? Do you think they're all willing to work their schedules out to find the time to get together so that they can reduce their billable hours, so that they can reduce some of the caseload there and the crazy depositions that have gone well beyond where they should be?
I will be glad to devote my time to doing it, but somebody has to take the leadership, and that comes from the political side of government. Okay. They have to say, we want these changes, or we want some study made of these changes and recommendations made. Mm-hmm. And I'll be glad to work with anybody in that area because I do have the knowledge, you know, along with other people in the state to bring about the necessary reforms. But the political, you know, everybody likes the status quo. Mm-hmm. People don't like change too much. Right. That's just human nature. Mm-hmm. But these are things that really need to be addressed.
It has to be. It has to be. You know, when you're leaving the bench, David, you had an opportunity to be anywhere you wanted to be. What was it about Nelson Mullins? You know, we had an attorney in from Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge and Rice recently, who said that the former governor of Maryland had just joined the firm. I think maybe even Jim Exum and others. There's former chief justices that have done well and gone on, and also like Uriah Harley, who are out there and joining firms. What was it about Nelson Mullins, O'Reilly, and Scarborough that attracted you?
Well, again, I was interested in pursuing the alternative dispute resolution. They have the resources to support me in doing that, and they allowed me to do it, and you know, it was a good fit. I think, you know, they have offices just about everywhere. Washington, Boston, you know, Charlotte, Columbia, Greenville, Myrtle Beach. I just wish they had one in Florence.
You may be able to steer them that direction. You may be able to steer them.
Anyway, I've enjoyed my association with them, and frankly, I don't know how much longer I'm going to continue to be as active as I am, but as long as my health is good, and I can still think logically, I'm still want to work.
That's right. You shared with us yesterday about your grandchildren both in the PD here in our viewing area and here in our viewing area here at the beach, and that they're keeping you pretty dang busy. You and Debbie, of course, this weekend being Mother's Day, probably a lot going on Sunday.
We have more grandchildren coming in this weekend.
I bet. Golly.
But we enjoy having them.
Oh, yes, yes. You know, you think back, David, had you not joined the legislature back in '62 and then later ascended to the bench in '73 and then ascended again in '80 or '81 and then ascended again even in '91, what do you think you'd be doing had you not, you know, yesterday, of course, you shared with us about your service in the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. What do you think you'd be doing had you not gotten into the judiciary?
Well, I've always enjoyed the law, and so I think, you know, getting into the judiciary is something that a lot of people in the legal profession just say, you know, in my career, I would like to be a judge. In my particular situation, when I was in high school, we had two great trial lawyers in Florence. Both had served in the state senate at one time. One was George Keels, and one was Peter McCann. And if you could afford them, and it didn't cost that much back then to go hire them, but I'd go to the courthouse and sit in the courthouse and listen to them try cases. It was better than watching movies. I mean, it was just fascinating. And so I've always been fascinated with the law. I've always been one for the outdoors.
Right. I
tell people I really wanted to be a game warden, but I found out when I got out of service what it paid, and so I just couldn't be a game warden. So that's how I went on into law. I've always enjoyed it, and it's been fascinating to me, and I still enjoy it. I still enjoy meeting the lawyers, working with lawyers. Still enjoy working and trying to help resolve these disputes.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, we've run out of time. David, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with the Honorable David Harwell coming up next. Out of time yesterday. We ran out of time today. If you missed him yesterday, go to carolinapeople.com next week to check him out. Wish you'd heard him off camera. He's almost funnier and a better storyteller off camera than he is on camera. But if you didn't have a chance to be here today, surely take the time to spend some time there at carolinapeople.com and watch David Harwell Part 1 and Part 2 going live next week.